This is our Unconstitutional Awakening program.
Liftoff will start in T-minus 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have ignition.
Brought to you by KD Consulting Redesigned.
Ahoy there, mateys. It's time to set sail on another episode of Unconstitutional Awakening. So this evening, you guys, since it's the official kickoff of spooky month on our end over here, I figured I'd have something extra special planned for you. I've spoken with this fella down here, Mr. Scott Pace, and man, you guys, not only does he talk to Bigfoot, but he's even talked to the Dogman, and he's told me some interesting stories as it was anyway, and I decided that I thought it would be perfect to kick Spooky Month off with having some of these stories told to us by this fabulous guy here, which you guys know I'm going to share links back to his YouTube and Facebook and stuff. He's got groups over there that are, all set up for that kind of stuff that you guys be able to get right back to him. And me and Luis and him were talking before we started. I believe I'm even going to share a bit of a written story in the blog on the website so that I can share these pictures with you guys a little bit better, especially for the folks out there just listening instead of watching them, because these are, man, this stuff is pretty amazing sitting over here looking at it on my end. So before we get too far into things, I got to give all the shout outs that I need to give out to the people that care about us and keep this whole thing going, man. All those folks out there giving us the love over there at unconstitutionalawakening.com, where you can find links back to watch us everywhere on Rumble, Odyssey, and BitChute, which we thank you guys, and everywhere that you can listen to us. And that's not even everywhere, man. There's a few places that I don't even have listed that you guys can listen to us at. It's just pretty much every podcasting app there is now. And as well as the website. You can find links back to our sweet merch that we've got for Unconstitutional Awakening, as well as our awesome sponsors, Kirk Elliott, Peachy Key Creations, Ammo Can, and Brett Pike with Classical Learner. You guys know how to find all that great stuff. It's over there at Unconstitutional Awakening. And, we look forward to interacting and stuff, man. We've got all good stuff going on over there for the hosts. Some of the hosts are bringing up some new stuff in the podcast and more section. And, we're just doing all kinds of great things with that and trying to bring these great stories like this, man. Like I don't like to be a one-hit wonder. I don't want to talk about doom and gloom. And since it's spooky season, it's time to talk about Bigfoot and Dogman. So let's start off with Luis. How are you doing this evening, sir?
Doing well. It's finding interesting information, and I'm here to discover unknown things that I am very fascinated by. So excited to learn more.
That's right. That's great. Great. And then Mr. Scott Pace, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys having me.
Yes, sir. No, I mean, I've always been big into Bigfoot lore, and my friends over there at the Reality Czars had me as a part of their Bigfoot documentary, and that's actually how they connected me to you, because they said they had spoke with you as well during the workings of that, and I was like, well, I got to talk to this fella as well, because that's right up my alley.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, we've had some crazy things that happen here in Louisiana, and so what some people know is we have a creature here called the rougarou, that we call that, and that's actually like a wolf man or a dog man. And then also we have the people call to refer to like the swamp ape or Bigfoot. And those two beings or creatures are very, very prominent here in Louisiana.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely plenty of stories coming out of that area for both. The swamp ape, skunk ape is what we call it over here in Georgia, because I'm just a couple states over from you. We hear about them down here quite a bit too. Not so much the Dogman, and that is extra fascinating to me too. Like I'm excited to get into this. So like to kick it right off. Let's could you familiarize us with yourself a little bit? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my wife and I live between New Orleans and Baton Rouge, and I've been in Louisiana all my life, and so we have family land that's up in North Louisiana, North Central Louisiana, right above Alexandria, and that area is called the Kisatchie National Forest, and that's originally where our family is from, because a lot of the working industry and stuff is here in South Louisiana. Where we moved down here in the late '60s, and anyways, we all work down here and stuff, but we always go back to North Louisiana where our roots are, And so 2019 had a really incredible experience, and I've hunted these woods in this certain area by our family land and all that for years. I never had anything happen, so to say, that really got to me or spooked me. I've seen some things that I couldn't explain before, and if you hunt these same lands all the time, eventually something's kind of going to come out. You hear something you can't quite explain. You might think it's a hog or something else, but we're our avid deer hunters, and so 2019 I was in the woods hunting, and it was during rifle season, and we down here we have some things called box stands. Like, you'll get inside this box stand and you'll go in there and hunt and stuff, and so that's what happened. And so one evening I was sitting there, and it was about 5:30. Had a late start and everything. And usually the sun would go down. I guess it was about 5 or something like that when it all started kind of, the sun was beginning to come down and stuff. Usually about 6:30 it's dark during the winter time and stuff. And so actually this month right now, October, is when it happened in 2019. So I got up in this box stand. I was sitting there. I had a little backpack on and stuff like that. Had my 30-06. And put my 30-06 in the corner, and I sat down. I began to play with my cell phone a little bit, kind of waiting for the deer to come out and stuff. Normally, right before dark, they began to come out and stuff. And so I was sitting there playing with my cell phone, and all of a sudden, in this box, I began this high pitched noise, and all of a sudden, it's like the side of my head just kind of went sideways like this, And then I all of a sudden, my rifle in the corner, the 30-06, began to vibrate. So I thought that was really strange. I reached over and grabbed it, but when I did, I seen something out the left corner of my eye, and I seen some movement. And so I looked over and just took my cell phone, and I picked up my cell phone and took a snapshot of it. And so I zoomed in as much as I could, and when I got that picture, I looked at it and I said, what is that? It looks like a stump or something, And so all of a sudden I had a little pair of binoculars, and I took the binoculars and I looked up, and I seen it looked like something there. But to me, it looked like a man. I couldn't tell what it was, but it looked like a figure of a man kind of squatted down a little bit. And I looked over at it. So then I took my rifle and I picked it up. And when I picked my rifle up and looked at it, I could tell exactly what it was. The skin on this was black. I mean, just jet black and oily, extremely oily. And I could see the details because on my scope, it's a really good scope. And so it's actually a red field. And I could see right at it, and I had it magnified all the way in. But the eyes is the thing that got me. The eyes were a starburst, looked just like our eyes, and the eyes were a starburst like an orange and a yellow. And then the hair looked like ours right here, and it came around like this. The whole face stuff, it didn't have any hair and stuff right here on it, but it was just all black and all very, very oily. And it looked like somebody had a ghillie suit on. It had long, thick hair coming down off of it like that. And then its skin was real black too, but it almost had like an undercoat on it. But when I looked at it, it looked at me back like this. And then all of a sudden to its left, which would be my right, I seen something else move. So I took my rifle and I moved it over. This is when it got really crazy. I experienced something that people refer to as telepathy, or what they call mind speak these days, or a universal language. So if you've been in the community for a while, you begin to pick up on this thing called universal language, which other cryptids and stuff use. And so when I looked at it, it was a big, tall, about 7-8 feet tall. And this thing had a dog's head like this and had 2 pointed ears on it. The snout coming down was black, and this right here was black on it, or gray on the sides right here, and the rest right here was black. And then it's what I say, its hair wasn't that long. It was kind of short on it. But this thing here looked more like a tall basketball player is what it looked like. Now, I can only see the shoulders and the arms. I didn't see the hands. I didn't see the waist, but they had a lot of foliage and stuff there. And a lot of it was real thick in there. And when this thing looked at me, it looked down like this, and I could see its face like grimacing, like almost like this. It is like this at it. And all of a sudden I get this thing, and it's what we call mind speak today. And it said, put the gun down. I'm going to come over there and tear that building up and kill you. I'm like, what? This thing just spoke to me in my mind and did that. When I look back over at the Bigfoot's looking at it now, and it's looking at me, but the Bigfoot's eyes turned red immediately. So just like that. And also it looks at the Dogman. The Bigfoot's like the Dogman now, and all of a sudden it's like communicating with it too, with its mind. It's telling him, leave him alone, don't do that. And all of a sudden he says, well, he's got a gun pointing at us. And also I'm looking at it, and I had my hand up, but I never had my finger on the trigger. Now this is really interesting. The Dogman didn't realize I didn't have my finger on the trigger, but the Bigfoot did. And I was just looking at him. I was just observing him and sitting there. And this kind of went on between them a little bit. And the whole time I'm freaking out. I mean, I'm just going like, okay, what in the world is this? I was more in shock than anything. And the Bigfoot was actually kind of squatted down. And this thing was probably about 6 foot squatted down tall. And it was pretty big. And so all of a sudden this other voice comes to me at the same time and says, leave now. And I'm like, what? So all of a sudden I get my backpack and I grab it. I began to walk outside of this little shack that I have there. It's a hunting stand. And I grab my gun and all that, and I began to walk back toward where my golf cart is, which I come in on. So the golf cart is all jacked up. So all of a sudden at the same time, I hear my cousin crank up, and he comes around. He's on his forward coming out. Now, what's really interesting is there's some time loss here, which I told other people before. And the interesting thing about this is I don't know what happened, but something was transferred between me and the Bigfoot when this happened. And the only thing I can say is that something, it did something. I don't know what happened. But since then, I've been able to talk to him and mind speaking stuff to him. And so I was going out, went and got on the golf cart. And when I sit there, I was looking, I could hear them while I was walking out. And believe me, I was almost running. And my heart was beating, and I was almost in a state of shock. But anyways, thank God I made it out of there, you know. And so when I get out to my golf cart, I'm just kind of sitting there, and the golf cart is actually pointed toward the woods where they are. And so I sit there and I just look at the woods, and I can see the woods moving. Now you can hear them coming through. Come to find out, I thought it was just 2 of them, but it was more like about 4 of them that was coming out, and maybe even 5. But you could hear them walking through. It almost sounded like cows coming through the woods. They were so big and so heavy when they was coming to the woods. But they got right to the edge of the wood line. And when they got there, when I seen them, I looked up at them, and I could see them right there in the edge of the woods, but they never did come out. And I told them, I said, look, I got a 30-06. And I said, y'all come out, I'm going to start blasting. I said, I may die today, but I said, I promise you this, that I'm going to kill one of y'all. And I said, I'm a pretty good shot. I said, I'm going to blow y'all's heads off. And I said, and they were close enough too. I didn't even have to use to use the sights on them. And so my cousin came, coming by in the 4-wheel, and I cranked up the golf cart, and I turned around and just got out of there. And what's really interesting is I've always had some other little things happen in the woods there, but never did I ever bring it back to Bigfoot or anything. So that was in 2019. In 2009, I was up there hunting again, and I hadn't shot a deer that year. But actually, I was living in what they call Houma, Louisiana, down here. That's where they have the Rougarou Festival out. But I got some pictures of that too. But anyways, my cousin called me up. He said, hey, Scotty, so you going to come hunt with us this year? I said, well, I've been kind of busy down here, but I said, I'd like to, I said, I don't know. He said, well, come on. I said, what we'll do is get you on a stand. And he said, go get on one of them leaning tubes down at bottom. So you're probably going to see something down there. And so anyways, we could run dogs certain time of the year, on our lease and stuff like that. And so I think it was around Christmas time or something like that. So anyways, I got on the stand early that morning, basically went out by myself, sitting on the leaning tube. And that's actually a stand that leans against a tree, and you just climb up in it. And it has like a seat and everything in it. So I was sitting there, and it got to be about 9 o'clock. I didn't see anything or hear anything. It was really quiet that day. And so anyways, I texted him. I said, look, what's going on? So he said, okay, I'm going to get the dogs and come run through. So all of a sudden, I hear him come up, and the dogs are following him. You run through the woods with him, everything. He's on a 4-wheeler, he gets off, and he starts making what they call a drive. So all of a sudden, he starts coming through with the dogs, and they're coming right at me. I said, oh, yeah. So I'm ready. I got my 30-06. I'm in this leaning tube. And all of a sudden, I hear them turn a little bit. So I said, well, they're kind of going uphill a little bit. Let me get out of this leaning tube. So I got out of the leaning tube, started going to where they were. And on the edge of our lease right there, there's a what they call a fire break, and there's a road. So I start walking this road, just standing there looking. and I could hear something coming at me. All of a sudden, the dogs were barking the whole time, and all of a sudden, they just stopped barking, and they turned, and they went back toward him, and then whatever it was started running toward me, and it stopped. And I said, well, man, that's got to be a big buck or something. So at the bottom of this hill where I'm at, there's a bottom down there, and there's actually a creek that goes through right there. So I start walking down toward this creek, and all of a sudden I see this kind of unusual area. There's a thicket there, okay? And all of a sudden I look, and there's this hole. This hole is about 2 to 3 feet, and it's as high as I am tall, okay? So I'm fairly short. I'm 5'6", so I'm walking down the scene. I'll stop and look at it. And all of a sudden in the scene where that something had ran toward me, this thing had, whatever it was, had hunkered down and got down and stuff and was looking out toward me through it, and I could see it. And it had all black hair. It had some highlights of brown and stuff in it, but the face was weird looking. It had some pointy ears like this, but it almost had like a long snout on it, you know, and it was big. It was really big. And to this day, I don't know what that is. Some people call it what they call a gugway. Some people say the people I talked to said it was a hybrid. And they claimed that, and I didn't know this, but they said they claimed that sometimes Bigfoot and Dogman will actually mate and have an offspring from that, which I thought was crazy as hell. But anyways, when I seen that thing, I didn't know what it was. And I just kind of stood there, and I began to get kind of weird, eerie feeling about me. And I began to turn around and look. I looked all around me, and I'm looking at this thing, but it never did. Now, the weird thing about this one was, it had black eyes. I didn't see any whites in its eyes, and I had a scope on that rifle at the same time. So I'm looking at it, but I don't see any color in its eyes. All I see is black in there. It was really, really wicked looking, you know, really scary. And I just started backing out. I seen it, so I said, well, I'm not going to go bother this thing or whatever it is, so I'm just going to back out. So I went back around and told my cousin. And he said, I didn't tell him the story about that. I just told him I didn't see any deer. So he said, "Do you see that deer coming?" I said, "No, it didn't come through." So what you mean it come through? I said, "It didn't come through. I don't know. It stopped somewhere out there, and I guess it just bedded down or something like that." He goes, "Oh, that's strange." So anyways, we just left that time. One of the stories I have is the weekend before. That was rifle season when I told you about the actual, seeing the Dogman and the Bigfoot together. And this is a part about them cloaking, and so which is really interesting. The weekend before rifle season is what they call muzzleloading season and stuff. And so I went up there that weekend, and I got inside the same box stand, and I seen this doe come out in the morning time, and I guess it was about 8:30, something like that. And so I got my rifle up, or my muzzleloader up, and I seen the deer there. And when I did, I shot. I seen the deer go down. Smoke was everywhere, but I seen the deer laying on the ground kicking. I took my gun, and I went ahead and put 2 more tablets in it, reloaded it, and then cocked the barrel on it and put a blasting cap in and put it back together. And then I opened up the door, and I was going to walk out. Well, when I walked out, this deer laying on the ground picks up and begins to just take off. And I looked at this thing, and I said, "My God, what in the world is going on here?" I was in total shock. I just looked at it. And this thing, it's like the legs were limp, the head was down, but this thing just uprighted and took off. I've talked to other hunters and stuff before, and they said that, they've had deer that they shot deer, and all of a sudden they get down to it, and the deer goes missing. But come to find out, something had cloaked, and it went over there and picked up my deer and ran off with it. So that was pretty interesting that time.
I got
What are
this
we
photo
seeing
pulled up
here?
that you sent me that was like, you said them kind of cloaking here. It's that one.
Yes. And that's
Real
on our
interesting.
property up there. If you pull up some of those pictures while we're doing that, I'll be glad to talk about those pictures.
Absolutely.
The interesting thing is my dad had gave me and my wife the family land that we had up there. And it's right across the road from the National Forest. So, we got perfect hunting and stuff like that. And so same thing in 2019, early up in the spring part, my dad gave us the land. And so we went up there and started developing it. And it was a big hill that goes down into a bottom. Then there's a couple of creeks in there that goes back to another hill. And so what we did was we actually had it leveled off. And what we want to do is just make it like a little campground that was up there. We used to have an old house and everything, but the house was old. And we just eventually just got rid of it. We just tore it down and everything. And so what we did is we had a guy come over there and help us make a big pad and everything. And so we went in and started, developing, putting the water down. We put the electricity down, and I started making start bringing crushed concrete, stuff like that, to make a big, huge pad that we can put a camper on. And so that's what we want to do is get up there and get our camper and bring up there and start camping and stuff. So as we were doing each step, I began to take pictures. And when I took pictures, it was funny how I set these pictures off, and I kind of started seeing something in the pictures. I said, this is really weird. This is strange, And I never seen anything physically up to that point. I never seen anything then. But what was really weird was I began to see things like I thought was eyeballs and stuff in there and faces and all that. So I began to, after my sighting, I began to join a bunch of other Facebook groups and stuff like that, and began to share my story. And I really needed to go connect to somebody after that, because I'm telling you, it was really, really frightening for me. It was to the point to where it was hard for me to accept. One thing I want to tell y'all is that my wife and I are both born again Christians. Okay, so we're, we go to church and stuff like that. We've been involved in church and been involved in a mega church and all that. And so, what comes into play is when you start reading the Bible and you come up with these things, you never talk about these things in church. None of these things ever comes up in church. And so there's a faith factor that comes in right there. And did God really create these things? Or this thing is a demon, or what is it, or something like that, But come to find out, God made all kinds of things, And in the beginning of time, they don't state all these things, but sometimes the Bible refers to these things as beasts. And so I wanted to throw that in there. And I don't think all these are bad. Some of these things are bad and stuff, but some of them are. But getting back to these faces and stuff that I've seen, I began to see these faces and stuff. So I sent them off to other people. People began to show me how to pick up on these faces. That's why if you have a story, something, that's why it's really good to get involved in some of these Facebook groups. And you may go through 5 or 6 of them that's not for you, but eventually you're going to find some that people are not so ugly. They don't have trolls and stuff in them that really want to hear your story and are able to help you cope with things. And that's what happened to me. I've got about 10 people that were core people that really, really helped me out to this day. I'm just best friends with now. I love their stories. I tell them stories and things that's going on in my life and stuff like that. But anyways, I began to send these pictures to them. They'd send them back to me and start circling them and stuff like that. And they have an app that's on your phone or iPhone or whatever. And they would bring them out, and they would put the little dots and eyes and stuff for me. I said, my God, man, this is crazy. And so I said, all this stuff was around me. I never did see it. Never did see these things like this. But one time I was over there snapping pictures, and I had my iPhone, and when I was taking the pictures in a certain area we had done it, showing our development, our progress, stuff like that, all of a sudden this flash comes across in front of my screen on my phone. I'm like, what the heck was this? Now my iPhone, if you put the picture forward, it shakes all the time. And then when you put it back towards yourself, it doesn't do anything. So I've actually sent that off to a guy that's a director, and he said, I've never seen anything like that before. And so they're able to manipulate a lot of things, So there's things called mind speak that's there. And then there's also other things like what's being called zapped. And so I've had that happen to me before, where they've zapped me before and actually made me sick and stuff like that, on the point where you almost immobile is what it was. And this time they just ran in front of it and actually did something to my phone to make the picture shake and stuff like that. Y'all still there?
Yes, we're here.
Okay. I probably got you captivated, right?
No, yeah, we're just listening. And
So that's that first photo you sent me right here.
What's happening here? Because the distance feels so close. It feels like whatever distortion's occurring is literally right in front of you.
It is. It's right in front of me. And y'all, this is what's amazing about the cloaking part is they can be right next to you and you never know it. And so one of the stories I have about that is I got surrounded by them before, and I was in a leaning tube hunting, and I could hear something walking but never could see them. They were right there on top of me, and it was like they were right next to me, and I still couldn't see them no matter what. They had 3 of them come around me, and it was right next to me. But yeah, if you can tell on each side of the picture that's there, one side is clear, the other side is clear, and in the middle it's kind of distorted. And that's what it does. It does that to
your
your
little hunting box you were telling us about.
Yeah, the hunt stand. I should have a picture of that right there too, and you'll see how thick it is in there. And
we got it pulled up now too. Actually, the little box, the little hunting box that you got.
yeah, okay. And so you can see how thick it it is and stuff in there. So getting back to that area and stuff. So this is where people say, well, do they ever follow you home? So I've got a story about that too.
Okay.
Yes, they do follow you home. Now, like I said, whenever I locked eyes with this thing, something happened. And I can't tell you what happened, but something transferred supernatural between me and the Bigfoot there. And I can't explain it. I don't know. But anyways, I hear them mind speak, and they still mind speak to me now. But it's not like they do it every day and they come and, carry a conversation on to you. But some things I'll get into in just a second with y'all is questions that I've asked for them, But well, I'll go ahead and tell you some of that stuff. So anyways, I begin to ask them, okay, when they come and talk to me and stuff. But what happened was in 2020, I'll come on. I had a rough week at work and everything. So I was just sitting in my recliner drinking a cup of coffee on a Saturday morning. All of a sudden, the same thing. I get this high pitched noise, and my head's kind of going sideways like this, And all of a sudden, I feel this presence, but I don't see anything. And this presence, like it's right there next to me, and my recliner's right next to a window, but it's nothing there, And it began to ask me. It said, "Why did you come and tear up our land?" Or why did you come and tear up our home? And what happened was we have a lease. And so they came in, and you can see how thick it was at the time. But they came in and they started cutting all the trees down, and they began to go in and clear everything, okay? And basically destroyed everything that was there. Well, come to find out, that was their home. And so that's where they lived at, been there for years and stuff. And so that's what he asked me. I say he, it had like a male type tone to it and stuff. But it asked me, it said, "Why did y'all come over there and tear up my home or our home?" I said, first of all, I didn't start talking to her like they're talking to me. This is how it all began, the mind speak thing. And I told him, I said, "Look," I said, I don't live there. We don't live on that land. We pay to go and hunt that land. I said, whenever we come in, you'll see us go in. We only shoot deer. We only shoot hogs that are up there in that area. And I said, we retrieve our game and then we leave out of there. I said, well, you don't only see us there a few times a year, and mostly in the wintertime. You may see us during the summertime a little bit to clean up and get our trails ready, but that's it. And it's almost like I felt like there was a spirit of depression that came over, the Bigfoot that was there, and it turned, and like I was almost like I could see it. It was in my mind, but I couldn't see it. It's like it wasn't visible there, and it turned off. But that was basically how all the mind speak and everything started. And so, yes, they do follow you home. And some pretty cool things, how they look out for you and stuff like that. I'll tell you, this one story is really funny, is that these guys came over to cut our grass. And so my mom lives on my property. She lives on one side of the property. I live on the other side of the property. And what we do is we'll take turns paying for them to cut our grass and stuff for us. And so anyways, these guys who went across the street, cut the grass, and they came back, and they sit there and got them like a water or something like that. And they was drinking and talking about their little trailer and their truck and all that. And then all of a sudden they got up and they started cutting grass and all that again. One guy was weed eating and all that. And the other guy was cutting the grass. All of a sudden a lawnmower stops. So I walk over there to them to see what's going on. I said, "Man, what's going on?" They said, "We think the lawnmower blew up." I said, "That lawnmower didn't blow up." I said, "I didn't hear a pop or anything." So let me go check it out with you. So I went over in my little shop and I got a jumper wire, and he lifted the seat up, and I went straight to the little solenoid on there, and I hit it. And anyways, when I put it on there, the engine started turning off. I said, "Well, nah, this thing's not blowing." I said, "Where's your fuses on this thing? Let's look at it and see." So right when we started looking at the fuses, I felt one of them walk up, and they said, "We did it." I'm like, "What?" So I didn't say anything to these two guys who cut grass. I didn't say anything. So I said, "Okay." So I went in my shop and got some fuses and brought them back and put them in a lawnmower for them, where they cranked up, started going again. And it said, "Call your mom." So anyways, I called my mom, said, "Hey, Mom," I said, it just came to me, said, "Did you pay them already?" She said, "Yeah, I already paid them." I said, "Oh, I'll be darned." I said, "Oh, I paid them too." She goes, "Oh, no." She goes, we got to dig out to cut our grass for free next time. We didn't give them the money and everything." I said, "Well, don't worry about it." So we'll talk to them and everything. So we did. So that's one of the ways they look out for you, which is really interesting.
What?
And that's how far I've come since 2019 with them, and it's 22 now. So
What more can you tell us about Dogman?
Dogman. Okay, let's go on Dogman for a little while. So another story I have about Dogman was that when we did the pad and everything and put it down, I was over there and they just put all the red clay down and everything. So you being in Georgia, you know about that. So when the rain comes, it'll wash it all off, right? So I went and got 2 big old bags of seed, and I had a little push behind cedar, and I filled that thing up and I started walking with it and pushing back. And it was right at dark on a Sunday evening. All of a sudden I hear this thing, and it sounds like a big old deer that's coming across the national forest. And so the national forest is higher than our land. And I see it coming across this big hill across there, and it goes down into like a little low area. It's almost like a little swampy area. Then it comes out of that area and jumps the road, completely jumps the road that's there. And that's a 1-lane road. And I see this thing coming toward our property. Then it goes down into the bottom where my land is, and all of a sudden it comes right back up. And this thing, y'all, I'm telling you, this thing was probably, my God, 7-8 feet long, something like that. But it was black, all black. And this thing ran right at the edge of the wood line, and it stood like a big wolf and just hunkered down. And when it hunkered down, it sit there and looked at me, you know. And at the same time, my cousin, they turned in a road that was where I was right next to our property. And so it was looking at the truck and looking back at me at the same time. But I kind of just got mad at it because I seen it, because they never did try to come attack me or anything, but just sitting there looking at me. So I threw the cedar over and just walked back toward where they were. And I was that time I was staying with my cousin next door, and just went over that in the evening. The Dogman and the Rougarou, in our area they call it a Rougarou. That's French. The Rougarou actually is a female, and so you have a female and you have a male, and then the male is called the loup-garou or the loup-garou. I can't remember the word. Maybe loup-garou, and what it is it's like a female dog. It says dog. It's like a dog man. Is exactly what it comes out to be. But if you know somebody's French, they can tell you that. But what's really interesting is that I used to work with this guy, and he was actually from Africa, Burkina Faso. And so he spoke French and all that. So I asked him about that. He's the one that explained that to me. And I never knew that. I never even put that together. But anyways, I asked him about that. I said, do they have these in your area? He said, well, yeah, they have that. I said, what about this Bigfoot? I showed him a picture of these things. And he said, no, those are more in the Congo. I said, you got to be kidding. He said, no. He said, those and the gorillas actually fight together. What's interesting is you never hear any stories come out of Africa. I've never heard any stories come out of Africa before. But yeah,
he said that in those countries that they fight against the locals fight against these creatures, is what you're saying?
Yes, and the gorillas, they fight against them. Yes, they do. Which is really, really interesting. You know, I thought that was amazing to hear that story, you know. But I've never heard any stories come out of Africa before at all.
I mean, throughout known history and written history and throughout time, we've had sightings of these creatures, and it's written in all of our stories over periods that are vast and through several cultures. It's not exclusive to one culture. So
do you think
it's fascinating.
Do you think these dogmen could also be what some people would have maybe called werewolves in ancient lore, like in Europe and such?
No, the werewolf is actually a pretty big creature. It's actually meaner than that. And you would think these things 7-8 feet tall would be bad enough, you know, sometimes even 9 feet tall. No, the werewolf is totally different. I actually seen one of those creatures one time when I was a little boy. And between Alexandria and Fort Polk, there's an actual area over there. And I want to say that's called the Calcasieu. Am I saying it right? Calcasieu National Forest. I think that's what they call it over there. But anyways, my grandmother, my mom's mom, lived over there, and she lived by herself, and she was out in the woods, lived there. I remember one time I used to go stay with my grandmother out, you know, out there in her she had an old house. It's like a log cabin. And I'll send you some more of those pictures of that old house too. And this one particular time I went and stayed with her, and it was in Thanksgiving and all that. And anyways, we had done a bunch of little chores and stuff like that. She used to have an old wringer washing machine and all that stuff. So I would help her, and we would do the clothes and stuff like that. And I help her go hang them up and all that. And so we'd put in a pretty rough day that day, you know, and it was I remember it being cool. And they used to have what they call open range. Y'all remember how they used to have open range where cattle would come around and you hear these cowbells and stuff like that?
Yes, I do. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, so they used to have that a long time ago, and so she had an old rickety fence that was around her yard and stuff like that. And so, anyways, we had gone to bed kind of early that day, and poor thing, she was worn out. And so we got to sleep, and the windows were open. She had one big old window. It was in the back. It was probably like a 3x3 window, and had an old metal screen on it, stuff like that. And so it was one of those old wooden windows. And I remember hearing something walking outside. I remember trying to wake her up, and I said, "Grandma." And I was in one bed. She was in a bed next to me. There's a little bitty small room back there. And I told her, and it had them old metal beds. Y'all remember them old metal beds? Had them old, I guess they were old fluffy type mattresses they had on things, and they would squeak and all that stuff. So anyways, I told her, I said, "Grandma, I hear something walking outside." I said, "There's something out there." She goes, "Oh, be quiet, boy." I said, "That's probably one of them cows out there. You can hear them. She's going to hear a cowbell." So she went back to sleep. I heard her snoring over there. And so I began to sit up and just look in that window. And all of a sudden, this creature comes over in front of it. And y'all, I'm telling you, this thing was huge. It scooped down and looked inside the window like this and was looking all around like that. And I remember this huge head, just this big old huge head. And I'll try to send you a picture of that if I can find it in a way I have it. But anyways, over somewhere in England, there's supposed to be the head of a werewolf. It's an actual werewolf. And these things can get huge, man. I'm telling you, when they say get huge, they can get 12, 14, 15 feet tall. They're really, really big. It's hard for us to comprehend these type of things. But this thing was so big. This old house set up off the ground about 3 foot. And this thing had to squat down, was looking at his head almost filled up the entire window. And it was just looking in like this. It's hard to imagine some head that would be 2 foot wide, much less 2.5 feet wide. And it was more boxy. This head was more boxy like this. It looked more like a hyena than a how you got a coyote or wolf? Yeah. There's different types. Okay. So this one right here looked more like a hyena type looking thing. Is what it looked like.
In the stuff that I have pulled up that's about like Dogman and Rougarou and stuff, it seems that it's a tad bit more combative, but it seems to be roughly around the same size as Bigfoot's as well, and runs around in a lot of the same areas from the things that I'm reading. And so
yes.
do you think it's quite possible that maybe some of these negative experiences people have with what they consider Bigfoot might have actually been Dogman, and they were just mistaken, since he seems to be more combative?
This, when you used to get into details, you start asking people about these details of what they saw. Did you see something? Did you see something like the head is really important? Did it look like a wolf? Did it look like a coyote? Did it look like a baboon? Did it look like an ape? Did it look like a person? Now, this is a funny thing. The one I seen looked more human than it looked like an ape. And his skin was real greasy on it. It was real oily. But it looked just like a black person, like a person from, say,
I don't know if you can see this or not, but there's this Type 3 Dogman on this Dogman website that I have. The picture's I'm going to try to pull the picture up because the picture's kind of small. But,
yeah. There's something on my screen. Let's see. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. Okay. I'm sorry.
It's,
yeah, go ahead. Pull it up where I can look at it.
Yeah. My bad. Hang on. Let me readjust real quick.
That's all good.
It seemed, and this is a terrible picture, it seems, but it seems that like this one looks more man-like than the other one that was on the other picture that it was beside. Like it has more like semi-dog face, but it's very gorilla.
Right.
Shaped.
Yes, sir. That right there they call a hybrid.
Okay. All right.
So you have the body of a person or a man, and then you have the head of a dog, which is really kind of weird. Now, a lot of them don't have that have the hawks, or you have like a regular,
the canine
like
type
the
dog man.
Yes.
They look
right there.
Like this picture
that is
on the
a
other
dog
side
man
here.
right there.
Yeah.
That is it. Then the other dog man is what they call a hybrid, or we call a Type 3 that's right there, which you have the head of a dog and then the body of a person or an ape or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And those things get huge.
And human-like. So
huge.
That's, and I mean, and I guess a lot of your stories and stuff like that, people don't get super clear looks at them. So it seems that, I mean, I could see this being mistaken for Bigfoot by some people that wouldn't know what they were looking at.
Well, another thing is to even get a story out of people, because, for instance, okay, I'll give you another thing that happened. My cousin and they had hunted, and I went back the next weekend, and I wasn't up there, but they went in and they heard a loud roar, like a lion, and a yell. And one cousin wouldn't talk about it. but the other one told me about it. One cousin had lost, he shot a deer, went to go retrieve the deer. The deer, he couldn't find the deer. He just got out of the stand, walked to the deer that's dead. You know, he shot it with a, what kind of rifle is that? He's got a 270. Okay, so he shot it with a 270. Deer's down. He sees it down. By the time he got to the deer, just like mine, the deer's gone.
So I've got this other thing here on this website that I found, which of course you guys know I'm good about sharing websites out there for everyone, but it has it's supposedly the recording of a dogman vocalizing in New York State by a researcher named David. And I'm gonna make sure that the sound can be shared for the folks out there that are listening and stuff. It's only a 10-second sound. I'll probably share it multiple times if need be. But I thought this was kind of interesting when I was doing my research. So check this out.
Yep.
It's a very faint, like low roar that you can hear.
It also sounds like they repeated the pattern. So it was a one sound repeated over and over.
Yeah, so that you can clearly hear it. But that one sound was definitely something.
Yes, and wolves don't sound that deep, generally speaking. Of course, I don't.
Sounds more like a Bigfoot to me.
Okay.
And that's the weird thing. It's like how common have you experienced other people experiencing this? Like, let's say in a group of 30 people, how many people in that region would you say, I have seen something? I have seen something. Like, do you think that in certain areas of where you live, it is something that is commonly understood between each other, or?
Well, in Louisiana, South Louisiana especially, yes, they happen, but a lot along the coastline. You know, we have our coastline down here, but the recent thing's been happening is due to all of the hurricanes, stuff like that. We've lost a lot of land, and so that's one of the things that happened. But yeah, I mean, there's videos on YouTube and stuff that you can go to. This one guy has one that he only has a few videos on there, but he actually has one that he taped. It's on there. It's on YouTube. Ooh. And look up. Here's one you can look up: Rougarou or while bow fishing. See if y'all can look that up while we're on here. Rougarou spotter or something like that while bow fishing. Okay, this guy, and has some language and stuff in it, you know, some cussing and stuff like that, but he does show it. And at the end of it, it's like at 256 or something like that, or 5 something, whatever it is in the video, sort of in the video, you'll actually see it up there. And so these reeds out here in the marsh, what they call a swamp, these reeds get up, 6 foot tall. This grass and everything that grows, and this thing is walking beyond that. A lot of times, because of ridicule and stuff like that, I'm more open to tell my stories, and a lot of people don't want to come forward and tell these things because they have jobs. I mean, police officers. Okay, I have a story about a police officer that's 5 miles from my house in South Louisiana, and it's along Interstate 10. Okay, between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, there's a stretch of the interstate there. And there was an officer seen one, and he told me this story. And I won't go into any agency or anything like that because I don't want to get this guy in trouble. But I actually seen him at a business, and a friend of mine who's also seen him behind his house. And we're talking about Bigfoot, okay? Not Dogman, but Bigfoot. And so he told me a story. So he was doing a detail. They had a construction site. He was at this detail, and they were rebuilding stuff there and everything, and they didn't want anybody to come in to mess with the site or steal equipment and stuff over there. So they had the police go there every night and do a watch and stuff like that. And it was kind of political, the way it was going on and everything. So anyway, this guy's sitting there, and he's in his cruiser, and all of a sudden he's sitting there messing with his computer and stuff like that, doing some reports and all. And all of a sudden he feels something looking at him. And he turns and looks, and there's this 8-9 foot black guy that's sitting there, huge, buck ass naked, standing there looking at him. He said he knew it was a male. Okay, so you're gonna know it's a male because this guy he's hairy, he's huge. He said this thing had to weigh at least 500 pounds. He said the muscles on this thing were incredible. But he said when this thing looked at him, it looked at him like this, and it turned and just ran through the brush and the swamp and all that. And he said it was like it was nothing for this guy to this creature to run through all this stuff. And that was it. That's all he told me. He gave me more details and everything. I tried to talk to him, but he just left. He wouldn't talk to me more about that. So there's ridicule and stuff like that. People's jobs are on the line in certain places. There are some people where I work at, I tell them some of the story, but I'll show them pictures and stuff like that, but I don't go into great detail and stuff. I'd like to talk to you about another thing too that happened that's pretty interesting, which I put a picture up there, and how they cloak and all that, how they can do it. I started right after my sighting. I began to go buy books about these things. I went into research mode immediately. So I began to buy other people's books, read them, find out what kind of experiences they had, because I wanted to find out everything about this stuff, right? And so this one guy, I picked up his books and bought both of them and read them. And his name is Jack Kawani Lapsaritis. And so he mostly taught me how to approach them. If they're in your area, how do you approach them, what you do with them and everything, and how not to offend them, because I didn't want to offend them. They weren't going away and I was there. Okay. So one of the things is when you me being a Christian and stuff, I always bring a little Bible and stuff like that in the woods with me, and I would read and stuff like that. They love for you to read the Bible and stuff like that. They love all that stuff. So I think they're a race of people myself. And when I would read my Bible and stuff like that, it's like they were around, they would listen to the stuff, But anyways, one of the things when you first go in is let them know you're coming in. Say, look, I know I'm here. I'm not here to hurt your family. I don't want you to hurt me. So as I come into the woods, I'm just here to hunt, and let them know your intentions and all that. They can see your heart. They know your intentions. So once you go into the woods, let them know what your intentions are. I'm just here to shoot a hog or a deer. And once I retrieve my meat and stuff like that, I'm going to get the deer. I'm going to get out. I won't see you no more. Okay. So I'm not here to hurt your family, because they actually run around in what they call family units or clans. Now, the dogmen have their clans, which they sound like coyotes and all that stuff going off. I've had my cousin call me before at night, say, man, listen to this. They're right behind the house. And I mean, they were cutting up bad. All kinds of weird noises like this behind there. I mean, they were cutting up crazy. They howl and do all kinds of stuff. The voice that we heard a while ago sounded more like a Bigfoot to me. And I'll give you a story about that too that happened. But anyways, the Bigfoot's going to clans and the dogmen go into clans. And sometimes they get along and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they war with each other and fight with each other. There's a lot of stories about that too. But this past season, 2021, one of my best friends, he was in between jobs where he worked at, and he had 2 weeks off. So he said, look, man, son, I'm in between places. I'm going to go from one plant to work to another plant. So I said, okay, chemical plant, all that. So I said, all right. He does instrumentation work. I said, well, he said, man, I've always wanted to go hunting with you. I said, well, come go hunting with me. What we do is we get to stand and you'll get to experience all that stuff. So he said, okay. So he come go with me. That morning, nothing happened. Went back that evening and it was quiet again. Didn't see any deer or anything like that. So we get out of the box stand and we start walking back down a hill, down toward my golf cart. And when I came toward the golf cart, I began to mind speak to him. I said, look, my friend here is kind of a skeptic. And I said, if you don't mind, could you please give us a sign? Y'all, I'm telling you this. This is why when I heard that a while ago, I heard the same thing. It started real low. He goes, yak, like that. Now, you ever heard a high performance motor, how you hit it, the throttle, and it pops like that? That's what it did. It popped the air. That's how strong this was. But anyways, yeah, that's the thing, that the difference between a dogman and a Bigfoot. Dogmans sound like a dog, and the Bigfoot sound more like a lion when they roar.
And there is a whole thing out there about, it being found down in areas near the Honey Island swamp as well.
Yep.
And like it seems to be clearly from other people's descriptions, because I am actually finding things, and not only in your area, but in multiple other areas in other states. I was looking at this website that I'm hanging out on with it at currently, and it has Connecticut, Delaware, Mississippi, New Jersey, North Dakota, Rhode Island, South Carolina, South Dakota, Utah, Vermont, and Wyoming. So this is a spread out thing that people have talked about with these different encounters, and
yes,
you can click and read these different stories. And I've heard similar stories and kind of the same thing you're talking about. People don't really want to talk about it due to like ridicule, but I'm a kooky pirate on the internet, and I totally believe this kind of stuff, that there are these cryptids out there. I'm big into, me and another host on the show here, Bandit, who's unfortunately not with us this evening. He's big into Wendigo and a shape-shifting cryptid. And some of these things that you've described this evening too, kind of like the deer that should have been dead but wasn't dead moving, and even the dogman shape and stuff also seem similar to things in some of that folklore. So it's almost maybe maybe some of these natives talking about the Wendigo could have very well been talking about the dogman. And it's quite interesting to hear these correlations, because I've heard some of these type stories and other lore from other places, and the Rougarou itself even dates way back into like ancient, like not ancient, but like old timey France. When we're talking like vampires and stuff like that, the Rougarou was in that area, was something to be said and seen in that area as well. Close to coastlines and woodlines and stuff like that in the mountains. So it's absolutely fascinating to hear about it so close to home for even myself, because down here in Georgia we definitely have what they consider skunk ape encounters, and a lot of these skunk ape encounters sound more similar to these Rougarou type encounters than they do a Bigfoot encounter. And I find that absolutely fascinating. And I think that the fact that both of these are out here running around, I believe in interdimensional beings and stuff like that. And like to me, it wouldn't be out of my realm of plausibility to believe that these beings are around me and stuff like that. And the fact that you've found such a way to like pinpoint them in these pictures, I've been looking through these pictures where you've gone back and circled and kind of pointed out. And like I said, again, I'm going to make sure I share these on the website so that everybody can, just go check these out for themselves, because they're fascinating. If you really start to pay attention, it's interesting in what you see. It might sound silly, but if you believe, then you can see it. You know what I'm saying? Like there's so much to say. It's something that you lose as a child. Children tell us they see things all the time, and I think they can see on other realms of sight and such, just the way that their eyes are in tune to reality, because they're closer to source at the time, I guess, than we are in the middle of our lives.
There's quite a few things you've hit on right here, and I'll go back to the beginning.
Sure.
You said history. So if you go pull up dog-headed Egyptian, go pull that up on your computer.
Yeah.
And what you're going to find out is when you go look at all the Egyptian glyphs and stuff like that on the walls, you're going to see these Egyptian people with bodies, and then they have a dog's head on there. So it goes to show you how far in history these things go back.
Right.
Now the part that goes into them where they become all like dog-like, that's a whole different entity than these dog-headed men, and that's a whole nother subject too, which goes along with the dog men and stuff like that. But it's more like a dog-headed human that's there. Okay, so these cryptid type things have been around for a long time. There you go.
Yeah, the dog head sculpture statues.
There you go. So yeah, but here's the thing. I mean, when I started mind speaking these things, that when I first started getting into it with them and asking them all these questions, here's an interesting fact, and this is a fact. I started saying, look, this is more than I can comprehend. And they said, look, it's not what you believe, is what you're willing to accept. Did you hear what I said?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, so that's pretty interesting, okay? It's really deep. It's not what you believe, it's what you're willing to accept. You can see something and not believe it. I see something in the woods, I don't believe that. I just don't believe that. I mean, I could write off in my mind, I'm not going to believe what's there.
And that's the thing, is like the average person in modern society here in 2022 rarely has ever gone into the woods, rarely has ever stayed in the woods for an extended period of time, while just 200 years ago, it was very common for a lot of people to experience the wilderness, to experience the wild, to be accustomed to wild creatures, to unexpected things. And that's actually where a lot of these writings come from. If you look at the origins of most of the writings from the 1500s to now, just from that period where there was a lot of already educated people that were sharing their experiences. So the amount of information that was coming out came from even the most like low level, like whatever context people can describe from people that live from the wilderness, from the wild,
Right.
from other people that could write the stories from their perspective. And people, when they read the past, and it's very fascinating, some people now have realized when you're reading the past, you think that they're giving you fiction because they want to entertain you. But fiction didn't really become something that was common until 200 years ago. People never wrote fiction because reality was insane.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I'm somebody that believes too that they would.
People can embellish.
No, not
Sure.
the embellish. No. I'm not even getting into the embellish. Okay, so if you're trying to hide something from a persecuting government or religion or something like that, wouldn't you write it in parables or write it in stories or write it in a form that only somebody with a high intellect is going to catch? You know, when you're I'm not trying to even just say myself, but just in general, when you're studying like, you know, intelligence in general, like if you quirkiness and able to catch on to something and or, you know, quick with your like comebacks and stuff is a sign of intelligence because you're able to break down these different things. So think if you're writing the same way you're trying to make the inside joke when you're talking about something like that only a few people understand. And, you know, if your intellect's on a certain level, like this gets into like Gnostic writings and stuff like that, if you've ever read anything in like the Gnostic realm of things, but they tried to hide from, you know, because let's face it, in some different places at one point in time, Islam's persecuting Jews and Christians persecuting Islam. And
there's a whole
there's persecution and elimination of entire religions we'll never even know that existed, but maybe they hid in their writings that, you know, different kinds of stories like the Dogman, like Sasquatch, like anything of these, you know, of these, because I relate the Sasquatch back to a lot of the red-haired giant stories that Native Americans have, and even in other countries and stuff. I think because of the my studies in like the Solomon Islands giants, they're red-headed giants, but they look and such like Bigfoot. So it's I find these correlations in different places all over the world, and I think that these things do exist. Not only here with us, but also like inside Earth. Like I think that's a thing because.
And the thing you can be open to in relation to such things is that many of them could die off and they just, you know, decompose. So you will never witness to see anything. The idea that an animal that decomposes in the wild, in a forest, you'll find it not in 2 months. There won't be any of it left. There won't be any proof of its existence. Yeah. So unless they started burying their dead, which is something we might someday find as we explore deeper into, because the thing about it also is we don't know how most of these forests actually look like. The idea that we have explored everything, every corner of the world is very wrong. We have mapped things. It doesn't mean we have gone there. We have mapped things because we have planes.
Haven't spent much time there. You know what I'm saying?
So we like look it over, like we're looking at this thing over. That's it. We're having an overview.
So if you touch on a few things right there, I'm listening to what you're saying and everything. And one of the things you talk about redheaded giants. So me being a Christian, I've read my Bible all my life and everything. But one thing you'll find is very interesting. The first person that you talk about in there, they have Jacob and Esau. Okay, Esau was actually covered in red hair. Are covered in hair completely. And when he was born, then Jacob came out and he was born. And they were born to Isaac and Rachel. Okay, that's in the Bible. It's in the Old Testament. So check that out. Now, what's really interesting about that is can we call that the first Bigfoot? I don't know. But he was very, very hairy, covered. In fact,
have you seen actually that phenomenon with human beings? It's a very rare phenomenon.
Not where they cover the hair like a cat or a goat. I have not.
Yeah. Yes, it is a very rare disorder. There's actually a family like that in Mexico.
Wow. The hairy people, huh? The hairy family.
Yes, there is literally an entire family. Let me see.
But I found that very interesting. You know, there's a lot of things in the Bible that comes up that right now I'm doing a huge Bible study because of all the stuff that's been going on for a while. and it's called Cryptids of the Bible. Interesting stuff. Where you've got like a goat-headed man that's in there. You've got unicorns that's in the Bible. You've got Leviathan. Leviathan is huge, man. Leviathan is bigger than anything that you can even imagine. It's in the water.
Yeah,
So all those things are in there.
I definitely am. I'm into that
Yeah.
Leviathan thing. Like
And so
for other people that don't know, that's basically Dragon Jaw. Like,
yes, that's correct. And so even God, whenever Job was going through his hardships in his life, beginning of Job, the book starts off with Job was a righteous man, was a good man, and all of a sudden God sees Satan walking the earth. He says, "What are you doing?" So I'm just walking the face of earth. And he said, basically, I'm looking for a few souls that I can take back to hell with me, And he says, "Well, have you ever considered my servant Job?" And says, "Well, you got your hand over me." And he said, "Well, this is what you can do. I'll move my hand away. You can tempt him. You can do whatever you want to do, but you can't kill him." Yep. Pretty interesting, right? These pictures here.
right. Wolfman.
Yes, and
Larry.
there's a whole family I remember seeing before. So he's one, but there's other people that have this trait. It's not exclusive to him. And
When you do a search for it, I'm not trying to like showcase anyone or downgrade anyone. Please don't think that like that. But like, it does seem to be something that it's like not super common, but it is a thing that does happen.
it is a very rare genetic trait.
Looks like more like a wolf person, doesn't it?
Doesn't it?
Well, he's nicknamed Wolfman. Actually, when you
Exactly.
search it. His name is Larry Gomez, the particular person that.
and there's
we're
this young
showing-
lady too. I've seen her before.
98% of his body's covered in hair.
Yeah, if you look at the account in the Bible, though, his whole body was covered in hair. Esau was. That right there is just a face. It's just a head.
No. The entire body. 98% of the body is covered in hair.
It says in the thing, 98% of his body, including his face, being coated in thick, dark hair.
Wow. Pretty interesting. So
it's exactly what you mentioned. It's just this particular collective had redhead genes,
Right.
and that's something that currently in the world, the collective with the most dominance with red genes is in Scotland. I think the highest population of redheads. But it actually as a trait is one of the rarest traits in the world to be redheads. My mom, for example, is a redhead. For context,
There you go. So here's something y'all touched on too, and I love this because it's tying in Bigfoot to inner Earth, the inner Earth concept and where they come from. And so one of the things that a lot of the Bigfoot researchers and sightings and stuff, if you'll look at the cave system in America, and you take all the sightings, and there's
bring
layers.
up the map, Jim. You'll have it. You have it queued. You have it queued.
Yes, I don't have it queued, but this is something I discussed
You've always picked it up
lot.
many times. Yeah.
Like,
There you go.
The
So
cave
here we go,
system-
guys.
Yes, go ahead.
Let's go with this. Okay, let's run with it. So I believe too that there's an inner Earth system. Okay, and you take all these cave systems and go into the inner Earth, and all these sightings are there. There's all kinds of weird stuff that's coming out of these things. I mean, you've got, oh my God, you got Dogman, you got all kind of lizard type people coming out.
The amount of human disappearances alone is a very disturbing trend, which if other people have mentioned that the problem is in the United States, there's a specific direct correlation between people getting lost in these places that does not happen in other countries.
Right.
Now, of course, we could also point out that it just depends on which country you're speaking about and so on and so forth. But in Europe, there's also sometimes similar things happen. And we also have to do the comparison of there's the rest of the planet has very different scales of comparison of like how many people get disappear. Like Brazil, who knows what that number is for Brazil?
So here's the Bigfoot and the cave systems.
There you go.
Okay.
I love it.
And then there's also another picture. All right, this is a third picture that kind of Luis was talking about this because I make this correlation all the time about the missing people as well. And so I like to argue that maybe some of these missing people discover inner Earth and they just don't want to come back.
Is hopefully it's that they don't want to come
maybe
back.
Maybe the Bigfoot let them in. I mean, I like to not. I mean, sure.
What I'll say is like, look, our even understanding of plate tectonics is so like limited. We just learned that there's earthquake beyond 24 kilometers. We
Yes.
just learned that a few years ago. That's just our understanding of plate tectonics, trying to decipher, to do prediction models and to do preventative action in relationship to earthquakes. Now there's potentially systems that can predict an earthquake 20 minutes before they happen, which is incredible, because that's a good warning that could save countless lives, can turn off infrastructure, could turn off the water. Like it could save an incredible amount of lives. But we're still learning. And that's, just look at that. Especially, I mean, I will say, I have not explored deep into those areas, but it's just pure wilderness. So there's 100 different reasons to get lost. And that's actually right now, all of our cell phone in the future, not too far from now, all of our cell phones would have satellite options. So that'll be a great lifesaver. So Huawei released a phone, which is a Chinese brand, and Apple just released their phone. So it'll be standard probably by next year or the year after, that all phones will, or most phones of a certain caliber, will have a satellite option. So if you get lost in the wilderness, even under trees, you will get a satellite signal enough to send out a message of exactly where you are, which could drastically change the amount of people that get lost in these places.
So let's go shift another gear. You ready? What about the coalition between Bigfoot and UFOs?
Yes.
Okay, so I have seen UFOs before. Let me explain to you. So 2 years ago, we had Hurricane Ida that came through here in Louisiana. Came basically right through. We had a Hurricane Laura, then we had a Hurricane Ida right after that. I think it was in that order. One went through Lake Charles, and went through New Orleans, was right below us. And it came through, and then knocked out our electricity for like 5 days, stuff like this. Had a good bit of damage and stuff all the way through Louisiana. So my wife and I are sitting on the side patio that we have here, a little cooking area and stuff like that. Some people call it outdoor kitchen. So I was sitting in our outdoor kitchen, and it was really pretty. The next day after that, it was a mess outside. But we've been working all day long, cleaning the yard and all that. But anyways, we were sitting out there in some lawn chairs, and the wind was blowing and stuff, and it felt pretty good, especially when it's hot, like it is hot and muggy, like it is in Louisiana. So we're looking up in the air, and all of a sudden, I see this light that's coming directly like from New Orleans, from the Gulf of Mexico, coming toward Baton Rouge. And I look up and I see that. And she said, "Oh, it looks like an airplane." I said, that's not the normal flight pattern. I said, normally they go from east to west. They don't fly. The flight pattern doesn't fly from directly south to directly north. They never do that. She said, "Yeah, that's kind of strange." And it looked like an LED light. Like if you have a white LED light that you have up, that's what it looked like. And it was coming. I said, "Well, look, there's no blinking lights on this." She said, "Yeah, it is kind of strange." So I said, "Well, let's wait till it gets a little closer so we could see it." And it was bright. It was just coming straight at us. So I told her, I said, "Let me see what happens." So I started talking to it. I said, "Hey, I can see you." All of a sudden, this thing turns from a bright white to a spinning disc that's blue, and it's going counterclockwise. And it's actually blue, like a blue and a silver color, and it comes directly toward us. And it got within, I would say, a mile or so away from us. And all of a sudden, it took off at a 45 and went directly toward Houston. It just took off, but that white light went away. Now, the hunting season before it, really interesting. Me and my cousins were out there, and we had made a big old bonfire and stuff. And so we were out there, roasting hot dogs and stuff like that, and taking marshmallows and eating. Well, they wanted to go play board games inside, and it started to get really cold. So a bunch of them went inside, and I stayed outside with one of my little cousins. And he said, one time we were sitting out here like this a couple of weeks ago, and he said, we seen these lights going across the sky. And it was like a group of them. I said, were they in a line or something like this? No, it's like a group of them going across. That's kind of weird. He said, but it looked just like a regular light. And all of a sudden, we looked up at the same time. Pretty ironic that this would happen. We look up, and there's one going east to west, okay? And all of a sudden, it's going as a bright white light again, like an LED light, goes across like this. And all of a sudden, it's like this disc appears, and it did this. It went in, this thing opened up, and did just like that, and it disappeared like this, just like that. And we seen that. I wish to God I could have caught that on my cell phone or whatever, but I never even thought to even do that. You know, it just blew us away when we seen that.
And it usually you can't even catch it really well.
Yeah.
Unless there's some light in the sky, it'll just look like a blob.
Well, not-
Look, a
and-
blob touched another blob. Blob.
Yeah.
And there does seem to be a lot when you search online. There actually is a lot of people out there that have a lot of Bigfoot and UFO sightings together. So like, you know, like I personally too believe there's some kind of correlation in there as well. And it seems that it with the UFO thing, man, look, I'll stand behind you 100% on whatever you've seen on that, because I too have UFO visual experiences coming out of the water of a giant lake with 3 other people standing with me. So like we all had this conversation over and over again about why was there a UFO coming out of the lake. And you know, there is some kind of, whether it be, you know, extraterrestrial, inside of Earth, interdimensional, or even the government fucking with me. There is some kind of, there are devices that I believe they do have hidden underneath water. Like there's so much correlation with UFOs and going in and out of water. And to me, I think there's some kind of travel system with these cave systems, and like all of this ties together, you know, Bigfoot, UFOs, the cave systems, the all of it, man. Like there's some truth to all of it out there, because to put these pieces of these puzzles together that are scattered in so many different conspiracies, it's, you know, when you start seeing that correlation, I don't believe in coincidence. So it's like,
No.
it's like, wait just a minute. I have to back up and go through notes and stuff. Like I'm, you know, it looking like that meme guy where he's all got all the chords and stuff to the pictures and the different directions, and he's like, I've got it all figured out. Like it's you know, it's just it's always been fascinating to me. And I know Luis too. Like me and him were having conversations about this, and I've always been fascinated with Bigfoot and had the roaring experience in North Georgia camping and stuff, you know, like, and you know, it's nothing big or anything like that, and you don't even know really what to attest it to. You just know that it's not what they try to tell you it is, because there's no way to explain unhuman, unanimal like roars when they are just their own.
And the thing is,
thing.
you really just want to walk away when you hear something that terrifying. And a separate point I'll mention is I've never looked into any wildlife photographers mentioning these experiences, because I will say, like, they are at least equipped with the best possible gear for it, but also they might get frightened very easily because they don't have weapons sometimes. I mean, actually, I'm sure some do. The ones that are photographing things like bears, they likely carry rifles.
Come on, buddy. I'm in the woods and you have photography equipment. Let's go on an adventure.
I mean, I actually would need even an extender to ensure I have range, but otherwise, I would love to explore.
So have you guys?
Tell me, where do we go, Scott?
So let me find them. Here's the thing that'll blow your mind. What if you go in your woods, you have all this expensive equipment, and the batteries go dead? You know what I'm saying? Like the battery just goes dead. Like all of a sudden, just goes dead. So you're sitting here waiting to go.
I'll have.
You get me? You get where I'm going?
No, I'll have a power generator.
So here's the thing.
I'll have analog too. I'll have battery. I'll have analog. Analogs don't need battery.
So here's another throw at you. All of a sudden your batteries go dead. What do you do?
Go to the analog version.
Go look at my pictures that I took, and you see how they distorted the picture. And my cell phone is messed up now. So people say they're going to do all these things, right? They're going to do this. They're going to do that. They're going to do this.
I would have an analog backup.
If you think for a second that you're going to get close enough to them to do all these things, you're kidding yourself. I mean, kidding yourself, because it doesn't work like that. You're not going to even see them unless they want you to see them. They're going to cloak most of the time. Okay,
you know, that's fair, because that is one of those
there you
things
go. There you go.
I've
Picture
read
right
a
there.
lot.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about some of these pictures. And how do you explain this picture? You see the cloaking thing in the middle. You see the clear side on each side. There is definitely something there.
Well, what's right really sure, and I can't simply explain it away other than what I can't fathom is, so if you can't see it with your eyes, how would the phone see it? But also the phone sometimes sees things you cannot see. So the phone sees in the infrared spectrum, and humans don't.
Right.
So that in itself is already an element. And for example, if I had infrared drones, I would be able to look through. I mean, of course, you can't easily look
Luis,
through
do you
the
remember
woods
the?
in
Do you remember
infrared.
Lowell's pictures that were kind of also inexplainable that actually form light, but they also had these distortions? Like I see kind of a, without the light, but definitely the distortion thing. I kind of see.
No, I mean, I can't. I honestly can't explain this outside of looks. Potentially, it looks like somebody actually actively manipulated the image. But if you showcase, hey, this is the original file, it shows that there's been no manipulation. That's definitive proof of something bizarre and spooky. No, I'm not gonna question, like, if I see the original exit file, I see the original file
there
itself.
you go. So let me explain this picture, you guys, right now. So
this is a zoom in, and
yeah. So if you go into this picture here, I'm going to explain it to you guys so you'll see what I'm talking about. This is the original picture. If you look at the very top of the picture, zoom back out just for a second, please. That is the actually wood. Right there is the
from
wood.
the box.
Yeah, so that's a box stand, guys. Okay, now what I want you to do is you're going to see right there where your pointer is. Go left a little bit. Go down. Go back left. Go back right. Stop. Zoom in right there. Keep going in. When you see it,
this is a compressed version of
the stop. There's the face. Okay, you can see right there where your pointer is. Bring your pointer up a little bit. Stop right there. You got it on its mouth. You're right below the nose.
Yeah, right here.
If you almost can see, if you zoom in and out, you guys zoom in and out on that, you can see the eyes.
I see almost see the eyes right here, the nose.
Yes, sir.
I see the mouth like that.
That's the mouth and everything. So that's it. It's squatted down. Okay. Isn't it crazy?
I mean, I would love to see. This is a compressed shot through the phone.
I mean, even now that I'm backing out and I've got my face fixated
I
on
see
it. Like
it too.
I see it.
Okay.
Like that's amazing.
Yeah, take your pointer, go back to it, please. I'm going to show you some more.
Yeah.
So, okay, take your pointer, stop right there. Go straight down. Go straight down. Down, 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 down. Stop. That's the leg and the knees. That's the foot. Now go to your left a little bit. There's the other. Yep, there's a leg. And then go back to the other side. There's right there. Stop. That's another leg. That's the knee and stuff right there.
That
Squat it
thing
down.
looks gigantic. Okay, now
it's sitting on its butt right there, y'all.
It's sitting
all
right
right
there. Like it's like just sitting there. I see
so
it.
if I would love to see it with Photoshop, if I can increase the contrast and change the details.
Take it, do what you want. I don't care. Go ahead.
If I can find later.
So go back to that. Go, if you don't mind, go back to that picture, please. I got more in that picture I want to show you.
All right.
So go back up.
Now I see the body. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, like it's right there now. Like I see the.
Okay, that's the whole thing. But I want to show you something. See how
kind
well
of
these
weird the body. I mean, it's hard to decipher it, but I see there is potentially a body.
Okay, so there's a body there, and then right there where those big leaves are, you see how they camouflage themselves very well. They hide behind this. Okay, now I want you to go back to the face again. Go back to the face. Stop right there. Stop. Don't go any further. Go back out. Okay, go back to the face. Now go right. Keep going right. To your right.
To my right.
Keep going right.
All right.
Stop. Go up. Go up. Stop right there. Right there. Go down. There is a dog man. See the dog man's face? Stop right there. I'm going to explain it to you.
All right.
I mean, so you're telling me you saw this moving?
Oh, yeah. I've seen all this. They walked up on me. So it was right there. So right there is a snout where you got your pointer at is a snout. There's two black eyes right there. The snout is actually black. If you go up a little bit, go up, please. Right there's a head. Go right there's an ear. Then go back to your right. There's another ear. Can you make it out? That's it. That's the face. You can't really see the shoulders and everything because of all of the stuff that's behind it. Now here's another weird one that's going to blow your mind. I'm going to show you how well they camouflage themselves. That's one. Go down. Stop. Stop, please. Go down with your pointer. Just stop right there. Go right.
I see.
Go right. There's another one right there. That's the other one. It's all gray.
It looks like a raccoon, actually, like a raccoon's face.
I see.
It wasn't no damn raccoon, I can tell you that.
No. The raccoon couldn't be at that height. I know.
Yeah.
It looks like a raccoon's face.
It wasn't Rocket. It was not Rocket.
No,
Yeah.
I like to like definitely because I could try to like pull the contrast and see what I
If
can.
you're able to pull that out and send it to me, I
Yeah,
would
so
really appreciate
just
it. I
email
would definitely appreciate it.
email the originals from your phone
That's it.
straight
Y'all got
to
it right there. So
No,
y'all
those
send
are
it.
not. Those are compressed by the application. We would need like the best possible original from the phone, because these applications compress images.
They do.
That's
Okay.
why I mentioned it.
They do.
So if you got another picture, go to the next picture. I'll explain that one for you.
Yeah. Well, I've seen this picture. I think it's from one of your sites or whatever.
Yeah, that's our site. Okay, so after that, me and David Hollis got together and we made this site to put all of our pictures in and stuff. And please, guys, if y'all can see, right now we have 727 members, but
Yeah.
please go and join that.
Yes, sir. So,
Now,
so we got
here's some more
here. You got 'em
circles right there.
I see
Yeah, I'd
the-
like to. I like to see how I can potentially enhance it, because I'd like to like take out the details and try to understand.
All right, stop right there. This is what's crazy. Now, this is what's really hard to see. Zoom in on that, please. Now you're going to see it, which I'm going to show you. This is how hard it is to see. It's really, really hard. Okay,
What
take
is
your
that?
pointer and go. Okay, stop a second. That's one eye. Go to the other side, the left. Go to left. I'm sorry, the left. That's another eye. There's a stick in between. There's actually a head right there.
Okay.
So that's a face behind it. It's really, really hard to see, but that's it. There's a face right there.
Eye and eye.
It's behind
And-
it. You really,
and
that was
the
not
thing-
really, you can't really see those as well as some other ones. But
You were
there's
seeing
four
these
creatures right there.
There's creatures you were seeing them moving, and they were just moving, and that's the moment you were seeing the multiple creatures experience, right?
Right. The first thing I seen was the Bigfoot. I thought it was a stump, and then I seen it move. Then I zoomed in on I took my rifle and put out there, and that's when I seen it. And that's when I seen the first dog man, which is the other circle to the right, walk up on me. And it was looking down. It's like it was looking down and picked his head up and looked up at me. And then as soon as I picked my rifle up, it got mad at me, you know. So it started grimacing at me. You go to the next picture. And that's just another one right there zoomed in for you. Oh, so here's an interesting picture, guys. I love this picture right here. So if you take a look at this picture and you zoom in on it, that is a pin oak tree that's just snapped. Take a look at that. See how it's just snapped? If you look around, there's no other trees that snapped over, but that one is snapped. It's not broken. It's just snapped over. What do you think about that?
I mean, there could be potentially many different variants to
So to let you know how tall that is, that's about 8 foot. That's way over my head right there. See, it's just bent. It's snapped. So my cousin, I talked to my cousin as a police officer, and he told me, he said, well, the wind could have done that. I said, well, if the wind did it, why didn't the rest of these pine trees around here snap? They would snap before that pin oak would.
But wouldn't also potentially lightning potentially be a culprit?
No, not at all. It'd be burnt.
I don't
Okay,
know
stop right
about
there.
lightning doing that.
Stop right there. I want to show you something. Stop right there.
All right.
What do you two guys see in this picture? Besides that, I'm gonna show you something. It's gonna blow your mind.
Tracks.
Good job. You're at a. So I've done a few podcasts already. You're the second guy that picked up on them immediately. And I've done a bunch of podcasts. And I probably had 50, 60 people look at this picture.
I
You're
can't
the only
decipher. They're
second
not
guy
vehicle tracks.
You're
They're
the
not
second
vehicle
guy that ever
tracks.
picked up on this. So you look at the left-hand side, that's male tracks, and on the right-hand side are female tracks. And so there's smaller and thinner tracks on the right-hand side, and the big, huge tracks on the left-hand side are right there. But that's a family unit walking down this road right here.
Okay.
See how wide they are?
I do. I see what we're talking about here. It's definitely not a vehicle, so
That's a
there's
weird
no
vehicle.
denying that at all.
No, and I remember I've walked to some of these areas, and usually the tracks don't look
This looks
right.
like my backyard, bro. What are you talking about?
Okay, look.
No, I mean the
it
tracks
looks like Georgia
don't
does. It's
divert
amazing.
with a giant hole in the middle. It looks like, I mean, the alternative is they were following old vehicle tracks when like humans just passing by with old vehicle track laid down in the middle. They just don't want to walk in it. I mean, I'm just making hypotheticals.
So bring your pointer down to the left-hand side. Come down a little bit with your pointer. Go down right there. Stop. That's a male. See the toes up top? Bring your pointer back up a little bit. Okay, stop. There's your toes up top. This thing is huge, y'all. And then they pretty much walk in a straight line. They don't walk like us. Their feet don't go side to side. And bring your pointer all the way over to the right over here. Go to the right. Stop. right there. See that? Bring your pointer down a little bit. Go inside that. That's another track. You can see how it's kind of twisted. The way they walk is there. Sometimes when they walk and their foot twist, it twists a little bit. You see how it's twisted?
Almost like it's bow-legged.
So you're saying they're potentially walking like this.
Straight
They
up.
walk in a line. They don't walk side to side. Their feet are not side to side. They walk. It's weird the way they walk. I can't explain it. I don't know how to explain these things. I'll just bring up the proof that I have, and that's it.
Yeah.
But their feet, if
That's
you
your
watch,
box,
see, that's
right?
how thick it was in
And
there.
this
See how
is the
thick
box
that's
you
their
were
box stand.
inside. Okay, actually, let me get some context in relation to this picture. You have this branch coming out, all right, a little bit. So let's put you inside of this box. Where are you in relation to this box?
So this is face on. My sighting was to the left of that box, not looking straight at
Oh,
you.
so we're not looking at the side of the box.
No.
Okay,
No, it's the same
that's
box.
right.
It is
But
the
a different,
same box.
but you are looking out of a different side of the box. Okay, because I
Correct,
wanted to
different
understand at least from this, because that'd be cool to
Yes.
understand the outside perspective of the inside perspective.
Yes. So this is actually looking straight on it. This shot right here is about 160 yards. I'm actually behind there. I'm about halfway up, coming up the hill right there. And this thing went to a bottom. I'm actually going down into the bottom, not all in the bottom, and it goes back to another hill. But that just shows the box stand, how thick it was and stuff in there. Really kind of hard to see. All right, there's a footprint for y'all.
Now this, I was looking at this one on my phone when you sent this to me, because there's definitely some kind. That's definitely something. Like,
Yeah. So those are
I
the
got
toes
some
right there.
contrast. All right.
So let me tell you a story behind this. I didn't explain this story. So we went in before 2019, it's 2017 or 18. We were in there. We decided to, every September go around and usually around Labor Day, we'll go and cut all the trails and everything, clean up and everything. And so we decided to cut a trail that was a thick area that was between our lease and the National Forest, which the National Forest, there was a beautiful hill. They just opened up to a creek, and it was just probably about a 200-yard shot on each side of the box stand that was there. So anyway, we cut a trail in between there. And when we were there, I kept smelling something. I told my cousin, something stinks, man. I said, something's weird. It was almost like something had died, almost like a urine smell at the same time. I'm trying to get all the smells together that I smelled. It's kind of weird, but it was like a dead animal on the side of the road with a urine smell to it. I know I'm missing something, but anyways, that's it. So I kept smelling this where we were cutting at in that area and all that, but never seen anything. They said, "Oh, this is probably one of the dogs that hunt dogs probably got killed or died or something up in here." So I said, "Okay." So I went to the other side of the lease. And I was riding a golf cart, make sure we cut all the trails and all that. So whenever I come to this one particular trail that we had, there was a deer stand there, was a leaning tube. I got off and started looking around. First time I look and I see this print right here. One print. This is what's weird, y'all. One print on the right-hand side of this logging trail. It's right there. No other prints, just one. Really, really strange. So I put my foot on the side of that and tried to stomp up and down on it. And I didn't do anything to the pine straw and stuff like that. Nothing at all to it. So I went and got my cousin and brought back around. I said, "Check this out." I said, "Yeah, it kind of looks like," I said, "I don't know. It kind of looks like a footprint." I said, what in the world is so big and so heavy that it would put one footprint here and nothing else? And he was just kind of blown. He just ignored it. He said, "Whatever." So he just turned and walked away from me. He said, "I ain't worried about that." So I'm more worried about cutting trails, stuff like this. So I said, "Okay." So I started doing some research about this, and this is where we go into inner dimensions and stuff like that. So I looked all over the internet, and I finally found this one lady, and she described on a YouTube channel about this. And what it is they're able to go in and out of dimensions. Well, it's like if we were all walking down a trail, and one of us stepped off the side of the trail and stepped in the mud and come back in on the trail. Say you're walking on concrete, we're all walking down the concrete, and it just rained, and we're in Georgia, and I step off on the right-hand side of the concrete, and I step in mud and come back on the concrete. That's what it would look like. So that right there is what we would call proof of them stepping in and out of dimensions. Only one print. They've also got other prints out there. If you go look it up, there's people that have them in the snow where there's big old footprints in a line like that, and all of a sudden they just stop. They just stopped. I seen one guy had that, and he was somewhere up north, and there was a bunch of snow, and I don't remember where it was, but I thought it was pretty interesting that this guy had a video of that, how it's something is walking like a Bigfoot, these huge tracks. All of a sudden it comes into his yard, it stops, and it just disappears.
Oh. Wow. Is this
All right, so here's an interesting. What do y'all see in this?
I see a face.
Exactly.
And it's also, I would say, at this point, the distortion's too vast to make out anything.
I think he's got another picture of this too. That's like a larger picture.
So stay on that.
Right.
Well, go back to that one for a second, please.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get into something which some people call pareidolia.
Okay.
Yeah, because at this point, there's too much distortion. I mean, I can't.
Well,
tell the
here's
trees.
the difference between you and I. You don't see it. I do. I have a trained
Oh, I know.
eye.
I see.
You don't have it.
No, I see it.
That's the
But
thing.
pareidolia
Is
is
that
the
people get into
cause.
all this what they call pareidolia and stuff like that,
Okay.
where people. So let me explain this to you. So I was sitting there. I'd read these books by a guy called Dr. Johnson. He's on the West Coast out there. So I'm going to put this stuff into practice. So he said some things to do, and so I went and did them. So I began to ask them. This is where it gets really interesting. You're going to love this. I began to ask them, "Are you the Janu?" And when I said that, these faces appeared. Now, how do you explain that one? This face appeared, and it was like a giant space right there. Then this other thing that looks like a cat face, if you look at it real close on the right-hand side, looks like a cat face right there. So there's other things out there we can't explain. So if you look at the other one, it looks like a giant's face on the left-hand side, and then this other thing looks like a cat face over there.
Okay. The one on the left-hand side, like, I don't know who's going to catch this reference, if anybody in this conversation is going to catch this reference, but there used to be this cartoon on Nickelodeon called Cat Dog, and they had this little buddy named Wilson that lived with them, and like his face is shaped exactly like that with the nose and everything. Like I definitely see it in this, image. And I do know that you sent another version of this image. I don't have it like right directly on hand. I think I can pull it up because it's a larger version of this image and not as distorted. Okay.
Right. And so what you can do is you look at the original picture and you can zoom in on it. And you can see that. But here's the phenomenon of all this. Okay. How all this stuff goes. I began to talk to these things, and these pictures, these things started showing me these faces. Now zoom on that one more time. I'm going to show you something. Zoom in.
I really see it now. Like when you're even far off, like I've attuned my eyeballs to see in the face.
So here's something right here. I'm going to show you something, a face within a face, and this is going to blow your mind.
All right.
Take your pointer. Stop right there, please. Stop there and go left with your pointer. Stop right there. You see that Eddie the Monster face right there? That right there.
Another one.
How do you explain that? I can't explain these things, but I know it's not pareidolia. It's some kind of, I don't know what you would call this.
My only real issue with this image is it's heavily compressed. This is not even close to the original. That's the only issue I really have with this image.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, he sent it to me, and I sent it to here.
Well,
so
no,
like,
I'm just saying,
terrible.
not even the grass is exposed. Like nothing is exposed. Like nothing is in focus.
It did just. I mean, I'll attest to it being distorted for the route that I had to get it to the computer this evening.
I mean, I see what you're saying as well, but this particular image, there is so much distortion that these artifacts can occur in 100 different ways. I mean, I understand vision is different to perception, but this particular image, that the issue is it's just overall too distorted. There are others. There's not a fractional distortion in comparison to this. This looks like extreme distortion.
So you do understand that they put off electric energy, right?
Okay.
You go to take a picture of them and everything looks fuzzy. When you look at it, it looks to you, the normal naked eye, it looks like a normal picture. But then when you go to take the picture, it's distorted like crazy. So that's what they're able to do with this. Now, this time, what they did was they allowed me to take their picture, but it was more like a silhouette,
All right.
Guys, I can't explain all this stuff. I'm only giving you proof of what's out there.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I understand.
Yeah.
I've sometimes used
I'm just as baffled as y'all are, you know?
Yeah. So what do we got on this one here?
I don't know what I have on that one, to be honest with you. That's just something with me clearing my land and stuff like that. You can skip that one. I don't know.
Right.
I have no idea. It's probably something there, but okay. Here's something for you. Have you guys heard about glyphs?
Yes.
Have you heard, what's the other
You're
guy's
welcome to
name?
explain it though for the people out there listening that may not have. Heard.
Okay. So if you look at this, there people say they have what they call, if this is a trail. You see the trail right there?
I
It's
do.
right
I
in
see
front of you?
like the deer trail or what?
Yes, sir.
Over
Okay,
here
that
we
is a
call
deer
it.
trail right there. If you look at the bottom now, I had nothing to do with all this stuff. I didn't touch any of these things. We had cleared the land. We come back and this stuff was there. And I thought this was kind of weird.
Okay.
So I began to take these pictures and send out to other people and stuff. They said that's a glyph. So if you look at the sticks at the bottom down there, they're stacked on top of each other.
Yeah, and stacked.
Someone had to take time to take this, stack them on top of each other. The other stick is going through where the bow is right there. The bow's coming around.
Yeah.
And there's a stick going through and it's actually making like a triangle right there. Then you have a bow that it's going under here. See the sticks down there on the ground right there? They're all stacked on top of each other. That's a little strange to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just
so that's what they call glyphs. It's actually some kind of language. I'm still learning that. I don't know what that is.
Okay.
And there's a better outline of that I drew. Okay, here's a good one.
Yeah.
So I began to take pictures of the woods because I felt something looking at me, and it's like I got this weird feeling, but I couldn't see it. So I sent this out to a couple of different people, and they sent this back to me and says, "What you got right there?" Looking, I said, "Oh my God." They said, "Yeah." So just like I can see certain things, y'all see a little bit, somebody else sees even way better than what we see.
Sure.
Everything is about what you go in. And the way they taught me to look for this, look at the one with the blue arrow. That's actually a Sasquatch right there, okay?
Okay.
And you can see the lips, you can see the nose, you can see the two eyes there, you can see the brow, okay? Everything's there. And they're cloaking. People call that pareidolia. Pareidolia, my ass, okay? They're in there, you just can't see them, all right? And so once you do this, you start pulling in, magnifying, you can see the faces. So the way they taught me was look for the eyes first.
Yeah.
Look for something that looks like eyes.
That's why you got it dotted, I see.
Yeah. Now look at these other ones going around there.
This one caught my attention right away.
Yes. And look at all these other ones. You can see their dogman. You see the teeth, and that one right there. You got your pointer on. See the teeth?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. How do you explain that? So there's different types of dogman there. That one right there looks more like a mastiff bulldog. See it?
Okay. All right.
Okay. Then you come down. That looks more like a it's a dog man, but looks more like one with a snout on it.
Yeah, it's got some kind of snout there.
Yes.
I can definitely see that.
So the snout on that one, these other ones
I really like this Bigfoot. I can see what's going on here. Like in the cloaking and stuff and making itself invisible, like the interdimensional.
Yes. So go down a little bit to this one. Go down there and take a left. Go left. Yeah. What do you think about that one? That one blows my mind. What are y'all's thoughts on that one?
Like I can see where you got the eyes highlighted. I'm not
look at the whole shape of the head and everything though. What does it look like to you? Zoom in on it.
I mean, these dots were put on, but I mean, it's not a symmetrical looking image. So it looks like a sad face below it too, which was kind of weird.
Okay.
I see the eyes and the sad face below.
What do y'all think it looks like? To me, it looks like an ET.
Okay.
I mean, it does not look, it does not look like the standard model of what a mammalian would look like.
I'm just giving my personal opinion. To me, it looks like an ET there.
I can see it.
Does not look. It looks mammalian. Not mammalian. I'll definitely agree that does not look like a mammal. The others look like mammals. That one does not look like a mammal.
So this is what if you take all these pictures like this, and there's your proof right here. These are pictures right here. None of this stuff has been doctored or touched or anything like that. Okay, these are just I sent these pictures off to people and they sent them back and they come back like this. All right, that's the Rougarou Festival they have down in Houma.
That's awesome.
But that's what I would say is that I don't dismiss your experience because other people experience this as well. So
yeah,
it's something that needs to be better researched in general with more people because we have to understand completely what's going on. Because we should know what's happening in the woods. We should know if there is sentience in these creatures and to respect them because if we don't have proper communication, we don't understand their environment, we don't understand their ecosystem, then we can't fully protect them either from when certain, let's say, developers come in and want to take over a certain region of the area, or mining, or whatever the situation may be. Having some form of communication is like, well, we discovered there's this really rare creature in here, and we need to investigate that further before we just allow you to dump sewage into it and things like that. And that's the thing, is like, that's one of the most important parts, is preservation can occur when communication exists. So
Right.
it's very important that more research is done properly and respectfully, and not in the idea it's like, this like fringe side, like, yeah, fringe is what creates modern science.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's from the fringe that's modern science evolves from.
There's a lot of, I've got plenty of pictures to show you guys. So we can go to the next picture. We'll talk about the next one.
Trying to see. Let's see. The ones that we have.
See if there's another one there
that you sent me this evening.
Yeah, you see another one there?
Let me look over on where you were originally sending me. See if which one I'm missing. Hey, give me just a moment, because I think on the computer end I have run out, and I think there is one more now that I'm looking back. It's got another one of the bent trees in front of it. Yep, I found it. Hang on just a moment. And I do apologize. Sometimes we run across some issues here.
But going back to what we had talked about, like when I told you in the beginning of my stories, was that about them coming and tell me that it was their home. They come and ask me, when we clear cut all that land, why did you destroy our home? So that's where they live at,
This one right here.
Yeah, zoom in on that one. There's a crazy face in that one too.
I see. I don't even have to zoom in. I can see the.
So you see it.
Face.
I don't know if people looking at this can tell. When they take the look at this and see, but that is a really weird face.
I really do intend on the news section of the website. I'm gonna put these photos so that when people are checking out the episode, they can kind of go back and reference along themselves too, because I think this is some neat stuff, and I really want to share it with everybody, because like I truly believe in all of these cryptids and these weird phenomenons and stuff like that. Like Luis was saying, the things that we don't dare to speak of or don't dare to really look into are like the next steps in science, I guess you could say, because there are people all over the world that have these unexplainable phenomenons happen like this, and it's something that really should be looked into. Like I think a little bit more time should be spent on it, because there seems to be some truth to it. Definitely of all the pictures you sent tonight, that very first one we were looking at, where Buddy was like sitting there on the log or whatever, staring back at you, that was just, to me, so prominent. And
he was actually sitting flat on the ground on his butt. He was just sitting there.
Yeah.
And so that's his legs spread out, or he or she. I couldn't see what,
Sure.
They're naked, but I couldn't see. I couldn't see anything there. I thought it was really strange. Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting though. But yeah,
This one,
instead
like, it's
of
just
people,
so prominent to me. Like I definitely see it sitting there. Like, and it's just amazing. Like,
well, a lot of people want to say all that stuff is pareidolia and everything. It's like each of us have an ability. Okay.
sure.
You have an ability, I have an ability. Sometimes we see things, sometimes you have to be trained to see stuff. And so instead of sitting, going to community and calling everybody's pictures pareidolia, they're going to call you a troll. If you want to get in these groups, they're going to kick you out in 2 seconds. You come to my group and say it's a pareidolia, we're kicking you out. You're not going to stay. So stay in there, learn how to find these things, learn how to communicate with them, take people's advice if you really want to go and see them, and understand the community, understand what's going on out there. If you want to be involved in it. If you don't come and ridicule what we have in our knowledge and our education, because what it does, it just makes us mad. You're not going to be in a group very long, I promise you that. I've been in quite a few different groups where they had people and they didn't control all that stuff. And so I got out quickly because, I want to be a part of all that stuff. And
You
it's
know,
not fair to us for people who have experiences and stuff like that, because be honest with you, we're not going to put up with that.
I know, I understand. You know, I've run across a lot of different groups that are considered fringe groups, and you know that you do. I have seen where they've had to censor a little bit. And like, I don't like to go in there and troll. I do like to learn because I believe that even the most wild, far-fetched thing that somebody can come up with has some validity to it of some kind, and I love to find the information. I think that's the only way you find some of this information really is through word of mouth and the internet and stuff like that, because you know, used to people didn't always write down this information. It was passed down generation to generation. Luis, we've talked about this, where things have been, you know, used to be passed down through word of mouth. And, you know, all the old Americas and the old, you know, native tribes and stuff like that all over the world, even parts of Europe and stuff like that. And so like I really believe that there's been a lot of things lost due to, you know, war and famine and disease and stuff like that, because the men were lost and the stories were lost from their grandfathers and fathers before them and so on. And I think it's our job to look into this stuff. And I enjoy having such open-minded people like yourself that, you know, truly believe in this stuff, because it makes me believe just that much more, because I believe in Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster and anything you want to throw at me. Like I'm not here to deny anybody's experience, because all of these experiences that are happening all over the world are a treasure trove of information of different kinds. And it's so beautiful that you're so for telling your story and stuff without any, you know, I respect that. You don't have any fear of out here just showing it and talking about it and stuff like that. And that's kind of how I run things too. If you don't notice, like, I promise you the pirate hat is a regular occurrence. This is just, I mean, man, I even wear wild, crazy socks and shorts and cowboy boots in real life. Like it's,
well, here's the thing with our experiences, and just because it doesn't happen to you doesn't mean it doesn't happen to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Not everybody sees UFOs. Not everybody has seen mermaids. Okay, I've got a cousin that's seen a mermaid before. Okay, he's not related by blood. He's just married into our family. All right, and he's a preacher. There's another one for you. Okay,
yeah.
So you would think that certain people would have a certain credibility, right?
Sure.
Are all preachers liars? All priests liars? Come on now. You know, here's the thing. You think we're all making this stuff up? I can bring you into places that, like, I took my best friend, brought him over there, started mind speaking to him. They talked back to him. I got another friend that, because of my experiences, and he won't go into the swamp now. He won't go. So, I mean, there's things that I start showing people and telling them that you're unaware of. I mean, you're unaware of the dangers. It's just like construction work. You go into construction work, you're unaware of the dangers until people come and teach you something, right? So first thing, we have to be teachable. If you're not teachable and you know everything already, guess what? You're not going to learn a thing, because you already know it already, right? Don't come at this angle that I know it already. I know this. Well, this is parallel, and this is something else. Sure. Don't do that. Sure. Go in there with an open heart. Go there with an open mind. And then when you go into that, guess what happens? Is you begin to learn. And I didn't know all this stuff in the beginning. Y'all just had a weird experience. I had a very, very weird experience. Yeah. And then after that, I began to contact people, staying humble, and say, look, I want to learn about this. Now, you talk about Native Americans. I got some really, really good friends, Native Americans, okay?
Yeah, no, they've always
and the next thing is I'm fixing to go spend some time with them.
Yeah.
Where they actually get pretty close to the Bigfoot. So this is going to be a real experience for me, to where I can go there and experience that.
I might want to have to talk to you after you come back from going and experiencing that.
So we might do this again and go that and see. I can tell you about our experiences like that. So that'd be next month if we can get back on in. But end of this month, I'm supposed to go spend some time there. And once you get into this community and you start talking to people, you find out that your experiences are really, my experience here is nothing compared to these other stories.
Sure.
Nothing.
Sure.
I've had a guy that told me that a dog, man, I'll share some other stories with you right now, okay? Sure. This other guy was in a hunting stand. He began to hear these things jumping through the trees. This is pine trees, like where you're from.
Yeah.
He had dog man jump from tree to tree. I didn't know they could even do this, okay? So this goes shows you education, right? So in this way, this dog man jumps from tree to tree, and he's grabbing on to get his big old claws on it, holding on. One gets right across from him in one pine tree. The other one jumps on the same tree where he's at. The tree's shaking up top and comes down like a squirrel. It comes down there, is looking at him face to face.
Wow.
And how do you explain? You think that would scare the hell out of you?
Right.
That's one scary story.
That would scare literally the shit out of you.
Exactly. Okay.
Right,
So here's this other story that comes out of Houma, Louisiana, and it's another friend of mine that's down there, and his father-in-law's a commercial fisherman. So they come in from catching all the fish and running the lines and stuff like these big old traps and everything. Hoop nets, they call them down here. So you got all the fish. He's coming in. He comes around this curve, and it's one particular island that they have down there. And guess what's standing there? A dog man. And he said this thing was at least 7 foot tall. And he's standing there just looking at him. And it says like it had something in the water, like it was eating a fish or something. He caught a fish that's right there in the water. So you take Louisiana just for instance. Okay, we have one of the largest national, ecosystems down here. It's called a Chapala Basin. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
The Chapala Basin. Have you heard of that? It's one of the hugest swamps in America, if not the hugest one in America. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thousands and thousands of acres. What do you think is up in there? We ain't even touched on the stuff that's up in there.
Right. Right.
So you go down there, they got dogmen, they got werewolves, they got whatever else is all up in there. Okay. You got alligators, you got snakes, and all the normal stuff you see.
Then that's already dangerous as fuck.
Right.
Look,
extremely dangerous, and that we're not even going into the cryptids.
They have y'all. I tell you stories about these big old huge cypress stumps. There's certain times of year that these snakes go in there and they mate.
Yeah.
There's like balls of snakes all up in there.
No, I have heard of that. Yeah. Yeah.
There's places exactly where you can walk. It's like, oh, look, there's like 50 snakes in here. Let's not go there.
And gators.
So here's one to throw at you.
Else?
Have you ever seen an alligator garfish before?
Yes, sir. I've fished for alligator gar.
Luis, have you ever seen one before? Alligator garfish?
Yeah, they're huge.
It looks just like an alligator head, and it's big. And these things get 6, 8 feet, 10 feet long.
Yes.
Can you imagine falling in the water and this thing grab you? You never come out of the water.
Dude, I've had them. I've been walking the rivers down here and had them brush up against my leg, and it's absolutely terrifying.
I've seen caimans which get up to.
It's similar.
Yeah. And those, around 6 feet. But again, well, my experience was in Puerto Rico where they don't get much bigger than maybe 10 feet.
Man, we've got them. We've got them even in our rivers down here in Georgia.
The US where they get to 20, 23 feet, 24 feet, which are monsters.
Dude, I've seen them personally myself in the 10-foot range down here in our rivers. Like
that's already ridiculously huge.
It is.
So I'll tell you another scary story about a cryptid, and this goes to blow your mind, is about like the pterodactyls.
Oh, dude, I'm in on Thunderbirds too, good sir.
Okay, you got it. Okay,
I believe I've seen one in my lifetime too.
Okay, so Luis talked about it down there in Puerto Rico. So a friend of mine, he was from down there, and he told me a story how him and his little brothers were actually walking to the store, and this thing swooped down on them. And he said when their wing hit it, it actually felt like leather. And I was in Puerto Rico.
Interesting.
So that blows your mind right there. Then we have another one. This is crazy. Right outside of New Orleans, there's another one that they had.
My brain just goes into there's not enough wildlife to feed it, but I don't know. I'm not going to take away from their experience. I'm just like, what the heck? And also, birds, if you do get touched by a bird, they do feel like leather. Like their skin, obviously there is feathers, but underneath the feathers there is like a leathery type skin feeling.
Yeah, he said that the texture of the skin
it could have been a very large vulture, and vultures are very big, and they are present in Puerto Rico. So he could have experienced being swooped down by a vulture, which
Luis is
scary
from Puerto Rico, so he's he knows down there it's kind of rough.
There's vultures.
Should probably be common.
This guy here that
could have been a vulture type.
Go ahead, Scott. Go ahead.
So this guy here, to tell you his credibility, he was a ranger. Okay. So he come out of Puerto Rico, went to the military, became a ranger, came out. I've actually done a show with him, and then he began to tell his story.
Yeah.
And he told me about his story first, and then he went on somebody else's site and told his story about that.
Nice.
And so, it's just, how do you explain these things? All that I can relate this to is dimensions. How these things are to come in and out of portals, they come out of dimensions, and then it goes back to the whole inner earth thing.
I can
know?
totally relate to that. That's
So we
definitely
talked
where I
about
go
cave
with that.
systems and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What about, and here goes back into another cryptid thing, which is the Bermuda Triangle down there.
Oh yeah.
You know, Luis, is Puerto Rico part of the Bermuda Triangle?
San Juan, the capital where I come from,
There you go.
is
So
one of
there
the
you go,
tips,
right there, right?
and UFO sightings in Puerto Rico are like extremely high. And
Yeah.
then we also had the Chupacabra, which thankfully I never saw, which I would
Yeah.
freak the hell out if I ever did, which we didn't know. All we thought is, well, the US government does weird experiments here. So we just thought it was like a government project gone array.
Luis, do you have Chupacabra stories you've been holding back from us?
There's not much. My friend, I have a few friends that have a bit more, but I don't know ranchers that were affected directly by it. I do know that some farmers had seen some things that looked very scary from afar. And the descriptions, again, they're very similar, but what it looked like, really, it sounded more like a government project that they screwed up, they let out, and then they slowly died. They slowly
Ooh.
died out because it stopped. But that the whole drinking the blood thing and things that was happening, that was an event, and that was never really resolved. It just stopped happening. So that's why they thought like it could have been a government created animal that they screwed it up. And the USDA and the US government does a lot of experiments in Puerto Rico. And when I mean a lot on humans too.
I believe you. No.
Human ones are illegal, but
So
Wild.
what do y'all think about a possible alien base being in the Atlantic Ocean or either in the Gulf of Mexico?
I mean,
I think there's one on the moon.
the reality is 90% of the ocean is unknown. Completely and totally unknown. A few years ago it was 95, so we only gone up 5%.
Google Earth is full of it. They put things.
I mean, Google Earth is a mess, and it's fascinating. It's next to Puerto Rico is the trench, in one of the deepest points, and that part's called the Puerto Rico Trench. And I've seen even research vessels. I remember when I was back there, I see from very far away, I see the ship, and I was like. And then I go on YouTube and I literally could see the live stream of them in deep down 5,000, 7,000 feet, just doing research. It was a very famous research vessel. It was a huge research vessel because I could see it from my house.
It's not that fellow that mysteriously died all those years later after doing some of that research.
So I mean I think I would call that correlation, not causation. Because what they found, which I don't know why they didn't mention it, that's methane. That's a methane pool. Like that wasn't what you would call something completely unexplainable. It was explainable. It was a methane pool.
Yes,
and the pH was so different. That's why the vessel couldn't penetrate. But it doesn't mean they couldn't have tried again. It's just, there's a lot of money that goes into all these things. So it's not that easy. Absolutely. And it was so deep down, they needed to probably get more funding. We can probably, like, if you have enough money, we can go there right now and go try. But just to get down there, it will cost you $30,000 to get the right equipment, just to rent it.
Maybe one day.
Because that's the thing, is like this type of exploration is extremely expensive. And also the equipment is extremely fragile to an extent. Like they don't want to let's try to get in there by like brute force.
Sure.
Because they also don't know what's the consequence of the equipment, and they're not going to throw away a $500,000 submarine because they're trying to figure this out. They might want to sacrifice it, but that's part of it. And when it comes to things like this, I mean, the new technology that didn't exist just a few years ago in relation to consumer technology is like now we have drones that have infrared. Now we have portable infrared. So even just making discoveries inside of very urban, natural areas is much easier. So even the darkest parts of the corners of the earth can now be explored, but it'll takes a lot of bravery to explore these places because they're not safe.
Absolutely. No. And I think that all of this, I think all of this is a great way for us to have kicked off Spooky Month, because there has just been some fascinating, fantastic things here this evening, Mr. Scott. And
But
I
thank
think
y'all.
I've had a great time. And I really do. When you go on that adventure to go speak to other Bigfoots, I do look forward to reaching back out to you and hope you come back and talk to us some more about it, because I'm excited for you. Like, that sounds absolutely fascinating. Of course, everyone, I'm going to show links for how you can get back to Scott to keep up with him yourself. And I'm going to share these pictures that he shared with me on our website, unconstitutionalawakening.com, so that you guys can, I don't know, see what you see for yourself. Like, there were some pretty amazing things that I think I've seen here tonight and even learned tonight. And before we get ready to sign out, Scott, I like to go around and ask everybody if there's one last thing anybody would like to say before we close out. So you got anything for us?
Well, the main thing is if you go into the woods, stay open-minded. If you do have a sighting, respect them, give them their space. Dog man, you see them, back out, just get out. Don't try to walk up to them, give them a dog biscuit or anything like that. Don't be crazy. Get out of there.
Nice.
If you see something weird like that, get out. Bigfoot, just you're not going to see them unless they want you to see them. Okay, so if you see them, they definitely like something about you. Because otherwise you're not going to see them. They're just not going to let you see them. They're going to cloak. They're going to stay away from you. And respect the area. If you get a high frequency noise in your ear or something like that, or you get a vibe, you get a tingle or something like that, and you just don't feel right, you feel a little dread coming on, that's their home. That's where they are. Just get out and get away from there,
That makes sense. No, I like
So
that.
respect goes a long way with them. They're different than us, but they're like us. Okay, they have family units, they have clans and all that. And the main thing is respect. You respect them, you're going to make it out alive. You disrespect them. I don't have that problem because I don't disrespect them. I don't want to go there. I don't want to have to pull my gun on them. Okay, I don't want to have to shoot them. And it's like when I go in, I say, look, I want to live with you at peace. I want you to live with me at peace. I respect you. You respect me. Right? That's the way it goes. So the thing is, it's like anything else in life. The respect goes a long ways. And so when I go into the woods, even every time, they know I'm there. But I just tell them, say, look, I'm coming to the woods to get a deer. The sooner I get a deer, if you chase one to me or something like that, and I get the deer, I'm going to get out of there. I'm going to leave you alone, leave your family alone.
That is all right. I think that's great advice for going on with this. Luis, you got anything for me this evening?
Just explore and ask questions.
Absolutely.
Explore and ask questions.
Absolutely. No.
So
And of
much
course, you
beautiful
guys,
things
before I sign out, I've always got a good one for you. You guys ready for this? How much citrus does it take to kill a pirate? None. You guys have a fantastic evening. Thank you.